Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hello, I'm Stephen Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, and I'm joined by Tom Vanderford for his weekly segment on all things Ole Miss. Before we get started, how much snow did you get, and how's the weather up there?
We got at my house, we got 9 inches of total accumulation. It's still below, well, actually it went above freezing a little bit today, but it'll be below freezing for the most part until Monday. So I'm going to work from home tomorrow and go from there.
Yeah, and if everything's like, I grew up in South Mississippi, which is obviously what I'm about to say is probably more pronounced there than it is where you are. But ice was like the kryptonite for Mississippians, especially down there, because they don't budget for them. The equipment to get it done, it's just, you're just completely at the whims of the ice.
Oh yeah. It's basically, I'm from Corinth, and we've basically, for the most part, been shut down all week.
Yeah, absolutely nuts. Well, anyway, we are still going in the transfer portal. We've got some other stuff to talk about. I think Lane Kiffin put out a shark on Wednesday after he got out of Tuscaloosa. I know that this weekend they're supposed to have a visit with Trey Amos, and that could happen. And by the time people watch this podcast, there's all sorts of stuff that can happen, because this weekend is when it really accelerates in the transfer portal. But what football players should Ole Miss be recruiting? Who are you looking towards in the transfer portal as this winds down?
I've made no secrets about it. I want Jaheim Oatis. I think he's gettable if he does enter the portal. Downs is going to Georgia. I'd love to have him. But that's the main one is Oatis. I wouldn't mind getting Caleb Odom. I think that's a pipe dream though. On my end, you never know. But I love how they've done what they've done. Yeah, everybody is picking on Ole Miss for losing the DB from Tennessee and the DB from Illinois, and that's debatable whether it was losing or not. But we get this super freak kid from Michigan, and then we might get this kid from Alabama. So I my advice to everybody is just let Lane and let Pete cook. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, on the show yesterday, I mentioned that it's time that Ole Miss fans quit looking at the transfer portal as an event and
Right.
more a process.
Exactly.
And if you understand that, because in December, we were really fired up, and anybody that says they weren't were lying, that Ole Miss got Taz Nicholson and DeCameron Richardson. Everybody was fired up about that. But they went away, and everybody's like trying to have equilibrium, I guess, on their reaction because of how excited they were. But the reality is Ole Miss is about to put more talented, higher ceiling guys in place of them, because what's available in December is not what's available on January 5th, and probably won't be available what's on April 15th. So I have a hard time taking people that freak out over players that transfer away or decommit seriously, because it almost feels like a pre-scheduled reaction.
Right. Yeah. And I can't remember where I saw this, and it may have been you that said this, but I agree 100%. People need to understand that Lane Kiffin treats high school and JUCO signing day like the draft, and he treats the portal like free agency. So he's cooking. He knows what he's doing. I just, they pay those guys a lot of money to make those decisions. So I just think everybody ought to just chill, man, chillax, and just wait for the fun to happen. They've got it in control.
Yeah, I mean, every fan base is going to have those yeah, but fans. I always talk about it's like, hey, we're going to be number 5 predicted in the preseason going into 24, and they're immediately with a yeah, but. And those people are going to exist in every fan base.
They do. God bless.
Um,
You can't
yeah,
change your mind. It's just as bad as politics, in my opinion.
Hmm.
They're set. They're never going to change their mind, no matter how much data points you show them, no much how much proof you show them. They're still going to be the yeah buts.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's just the way it's kind of that, that long suffering fan. It kind of became a cool thing. It's like, hey, I'm a Cleveland Browns fan and have been for 25 years. It's like, okay, great. I mean, other than the Detroit Lions winning a playoff game, I mean, there's not a whole lot of difference. But the reality is that's where those "We Are Ole Miss" stuff and all that, those long
Yeah,
suffering type people coming
yeah.
into it.
I'm
And
not
I
going
just don't agree with that. This should be fun.
exactly. I'm not going to lie. In the past, there was a lot of times where I used "We Are Ole Miss" as a negative thing.
Mm.
But I'll be honest with everybody out there that's listening, watching, whatever the case is. Since cancer, I've got a totally different mindset on this stuff. I don't let it get to me. I want Ole Miss to do great, and they are going to do great, but I don't ever get down about it anymore. I guess it was a swift spiritual slap in the face.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about because after I went through my surgery, the same type stuff happened. I only
Yeah,
get upset about things that actually really matter,
right.
and everything else is just about enjoyment.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And you just let it roll off your shoulders, but no, we're going to be everybody that's listening. We're going to be good next year, man.
Mhm.
I mean, it's funny because I said that about this season that
And
we
you
have
and we were.
that we've ever had in my lifetime on the
Mhm.
2023 roster. Well, I'm going to say it again. 2024 roster, we've got the most talent we've ever had in my lifetime.
Mhm.
We are stacked. And I don't think people give Lane Kiffin and staff the credit for keeping the depth pieces. I mean, it may change, but right now, we have two very good quarterbacks on campus, not named Jackson Dart.
Mhm. Yeah.
We've got tons of depth everywhere, so I'm excited.
Yeah, and a year from April, that quarterback competition between Austin Simmons and Walker Howard,
Oh goodness,
that's going to be nuts. That's
that is
going to be yeah.
that is going to be nuts.
Yeah.
I've had multiple people that follow Ole Miss football more than I do, which is hard to believe, but they do, that are close to the program that say that Austin Simmons is the best quarterback in Oxford. Now, I don't know. That's just what they say. I find that hard to believe with Jackson Dart and Howard, but they say that Simmons is unbelievable.
Back when he was thinking about reclassifying and going to Florida, even before he committed, I talked to Brian Smith and we just started talking. I heard the story about him graduating high school potentially early and all of that. And I talked to Brian Smith and he's like, he's Tua. That's what he is. He's Tua. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, you have to see him. And I think he might be better as a left-handed quarterback.
He's awesome. I mean,
Mhm.
every highlight I've seen, he's just, but we'll like I said, we'll have to see. He's extremely young, and Howard's awesome as well. So
Mhm.
I don't want to sell him short. It's wonderful though for us to be anybody that's been an Ole Miss fan for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. It's wonderful to see the depth. I've mentioned this before. As an Ole Miss fan, you've got a pretty good start in 22, but if you get a couple of people hurt, you're in trouble. And we just don't have that in next year's squad.
No, and a lot of that is this is the last one of the last years of those COVID years
Yeah,
that's allowed Ole Miss to kind of stockpile some depth and all of that.
yeah,
Um, So it should be interesting.
Yeah, I noticed today reading, and I didn't think this was possible. There's a tight end at the U that's got approved for his 9th year
Yeah,
of college football.
Call me old fashioned. I don't think you should. I don't think going to college for 9 years and playing football should be an option.
Well, I don't either. I don't know how
Yeah.
he did that. I mean, because there was only one COVID year, but
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a way. But they said he was originally in Jalen Hurts' signing class. Now that's just unstinking believable.
Yeah, it's nuts. You should not be 28 years old playing college football.
No, no way, no way.
Yeah, it's nuts, and that has to be the record for the person that played for the longest period of time.
It is.
Has to be.
They said that's the actual record. So, but that's unstinking believable.
Yeah, can't even make the Tommy Boy joke at him.
No, you can't because golly, I mean, Tommy Boy was what, 8 years?
Yeah, lots of people go to college for 8 years.
Yeah,
they're called doctors. Yeah.
God bless.
Yeah, absolutely. Whoever that guy is, he better have like 3 degrees and a PhD. He better be Indiana freaking Jones when he graduates.
Oh, good. He should. He should have no problem. You know,
especially at Miami, that degree means something.
Yeah. Well, it's a good school. It's a good private school, actually.
Yeah. It's them and Vanderbilt and all of it. Yeah, that's the type of schools that they are. Right. You know, let's change gears for a little bit and start talking about basketball. Ole Miss lost a game Wednesday night to LSU, 89-80. It was a game that shots just didn't go in. I'm not going to freak out about it, but Ole Miss is 15-2 on the season. They have Auburn coming up Saturday, and that's the return of the Flanagan boys into the jungle at Neville Arena. What are your thoughts on that game?
It's going to be rough. We're going to have to shoot better. We're going to have to play a little bit better defense. Yeah, in my opinion, it'll be more rough than the LSU scenario. Of course, we lost by 9 to LSU. I'm not saying, we could go in there and if we're on our game, we can beat those guys. But it's hard to win on the road in the SEC. Basketball, football, it doesn't matter. It's hard to win on the road.
Yeah. That feels like the last thing that Ole Miss basketball, the men's team, needs to figure out is how to get those W's. That's what makes what Kentucky does so impressive. Just seemingly year in and year out, they're able to just let's go, let's do it. And yeah, they just turn into a rolling ball of butcher knives about every 3 years. And, that just build to that point. It's impressive. I think that Ole Miss's basketball team, they need Alan Flanagan to play well. He did not play well against LSU.
He had a terrible game against LSU.
Yeah, and I think that's because he's been thinking about this game. I think there's an emotional part. Yeah.
Looking ahead to the Auburn game. So maybe everything will work out for us. I just hope that we shoot better. Definitely shoot better, especially Flanagan if he's going to be in there and get as many minutes as he got against LSU. I hope he shoots better, but the future's bright with the basketball team.
Absolutely,
we have the best basketball coach we've had in my lifetime.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Yeah. Anyway, and before I get out of here, I want to let you know this, Tom, real quick. Yesterday, me and the wife, we did our Friday Disney thing, and we went there and we wanted to go to the Country Bears Jamboree because that's going to be closed down for refurbishment in like 6 days. And it's one of the original attractions of Walt Disney World.
Right.
And for people that don't know or don't know anything about the Country Bears, you don't have to know that. You sit in there, you have to realize that this is like Chuck E. Cheese with animatronic animals singing, and it's set up like a Grand Ole Opry type situation in there, and it's for 5, 6, 7-year-olds. And then you hear the lyrics to the songs they're singing of Blood on the Saddle or everyone that turns me on turns me down, and realizing that these are animatronic bears singing to 5-year-old kids on this one. Weird. And it's just hilarious. And it's so weird. And me and Becky's going to go in there and just laugh and enjoy it. and eat at Liberty Tree Tavern, and it's going to be great.
Oh yeah, man! I hope you guys have a wonderful time.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see it, especially because I know, if you like Disney, if you don't like Disney, that's not my problem. But whenever they refurbish this and redo it, these songs aren't going to be. It's going to turn into like the Barney sing along hour. So, yeah. So it should be fun.
A time long gone.
Yeah. It's just a little reminder. It's like, man, kids in the 70s, they were different. They were different. Anyway, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Tom Vanderford joins the show as always to talk Ole Miss sports. I'm Stephen Willis. I hope everybody has a good weekend. And Tom, have a good one, man. Happy weekend.
Oh yeah, you too, buddy. Hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy.